everyone, and welcome back to Liz Sews and the next video in my Make It Your Own series, where I show you how to take an already existing well-fitting bra pattern and change up the style line so you get something that looks completely unique. In today's tutorial, I'll be going over the pattern drafting methods to recreate this Walk in the Woods bra that I made for bra builders. A lot of people were very interested in this, and so I was happy to be able to show you how to make the pattern pieces themselves. I've based this design off of the Ophelia bra pattern. If you don't want to go about drafting something yourself and you just want something that's a little bit more out of the box, I would highly recommend picking up the Ophelia pattern. And I've linked the Etsy posting to the pattern designer in the description box below. Today's tutorial will only be going over the pattern alteration portion of this bra. If you want to learn a little bit more about construction, make sure to be subscribed to my channel so you will see future videos. This month I will have project log videos that will show a little bit more detail on the construction of this pattern. However, it will not be a full-blown tutorial. I am assuming that you have a little bit of bra construction knowledge by this point. If you want a full step-by-step instruction on how to make a bra, I'd highly encourage you to check out some of my other bra making tutorials on my channel. For this pattern alteration, you will need cup pattern pieces, tape, a marking utensil, curved and straight rulers, tracing paper. Let's get started. For this demonstration, I will be using the Black Beauty bra. This is my favorite well-fitting bra pattern right now, and so that's why it's the basis for most of my pattern manipulations. However, it should work fairly well with anything where you have a horizontal or even a diagonal seamed cup. The first step is to align the upper and lower cup pieces, making sure to remove all of the seam allowances. To make it a little bit easier to see, I'm just going to remove the seam allowances on one of my cup pieces along the outer edge. You can see I've just cut it off here where that seam allowance mark is. That makes it a little bit easier for me to line it up with the top piece. Because the swooping curve of this is going to come up and along here, I want to make sure that I have these two pieces aligned. And I want to butt up my edge of this outer cup piece here where I removed the seam allowance to the seam allowance line on my other cup piece here. At this point, it's more important to match up along the wire line here, and it's okay if it starts diverging when you get lower down into the cup piece here. Now I'm going to lay my piece of tracing paper over top of the cups to draw in my new outer swooping curve. So the Black Beauty bra comes with a power bar already included, so it makes it really easy if you just want to align this cup piece over here and get your top portion of your swoop. However, it's not necessarily that you have to have this pattern piece already made. You can just do it yourself as well. I'm going to show you how to do it as if you didn't have that pattern piece. So the first step is I want to form that little strap attachment portion. And I'm going to take the underarm scoop that's already existing in my pattern piece and just sort of extend it up further. For this particular design, I like to have a pretty substantial portion that's going to be my strap extension, just because I think it helps the design look nicer. I'm also going to draw in my seam allowances as well, just to make sure I'm keeping track of things. This one is a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance because this edge is covered with 3/8 of an inch picot elastic. Once we have that drawn into place, you can just do a straight line across. And then you also need to sort of think about what width is going to be your strap. So if you're using 1/2 inch strap elastic, you want this strap attachment point to be 1/2 inch as well. 1/2 inch elastic is my preferred one, so I am going to draw in 1/2 inch from the inside of my seam allowance line. So the distance from here to here is the same as my strap width. That way it should work well with your hardware that you're using for your bra. And then once you have an idea of where that's going to be, you can draw in the edge of your strap attachment point down to here. So now I'm just meeting back up again with the edge of my upper cup piece. Now in order to form the scoop, I think my original scoop on the Walk in the Woods bra went to this corner point here. You are certainly welcome to extend it all the way up to the corner point here. It will take a little bit of extra manipulation, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that. So on the outer edge of my cut piece, I just want to go ahead and redraw my wire line in that one smooth sweeping motion. You can see where these two cut pieces connect, there's a little bit of a jog, and I'm going to get rid of that by making one smooth continuous line. So now I have the outer edge of this swoop cup piece drawn into place along this curve, and I'm going to do the same thing for the inner cut piece here. Now where it's going to cross, you want to make sure that it doesn't cross too far over into the cut piece here. You see where this seam allowance line here and the seam allowance line here have moved apart. That means that the cut piece won't fit. So you want to make sure that you're not crossing over where you've started to have that divergence from your two cut pieces. So in my example here, the divergence starts at about that point. That's when the two seam allowances start moving away from each other. So I know that I don't want my cut piece to fall anywhere beyond that. I want to stick in this area here. So once I've determined that, you can go ahead and draw in your nice swoopy curved line. So the first example I'm going to do is if you were to curve into this cross cup seam. Let's see. So I've curved all the way up and around until I meet that center point on my lower cut piece here. Let me get these out of the way. So once you've done that, you will of course need to add your seam allowance. I like to use 1/4 inch seam allowance on this because I'm going to connect fabric to fabric. If you wanted to finish the edge of this curve with something like elastic, then you would need to add your seam allowances accordingly. But because I'm going to sew a lining and an exterior fabric piece, I'm going to add 1/4 inch along my curve. So the rulers that I'm using right now, I have linked in the description box below. It's not sponsored. I just really, really love these rulers. They come from Clover in a 3-pack, and the reason that I like them is because it makes it super easy for me to add my 1/4 inch seam allowance along curved edges. Makes it a really, really fast procedure. Okay, so I've now added my 1/4 inch along here. I don't need to add extra anywhere else along this pattern piece because the seam allowances were already built in and one wasn't copied that over. But I just need to add my 1/4 inch over here. And then when you get to the sort of end of this point, you kind of just want to like dead end it into a longer point here. Most of this will go away once you get your seam allowances in because of course the cut piece ends right there. So most of this is going to be cut off down the road. So that is if you wanted to have a scoop like the Walk in the Woods bra that ends at this cross cup seam. But what happens if you want the scoop to extend all the way to the center bridge? I'm going to start out in the very same manner where I'm going to do my strap attachment and then copying this arc here. And then I'll get to that point and I'll come back to you. Okay, so I've copied the strap attachment point, the underarm section, and then the scoop as it extends down here. So now what I'm going to do is cut into this pattern piece. Make sure that you're not cutting into your only version of your well-fitting pattern pieces. I would definitely make sure that you have two. It doesn't matter where you cut, you just kind of want to cut somewhere towards the middle of your upper cut piece, and then we're going to do like we did over here. I'm going to remove my seam allowances just to make it easier for me to butt things up. And I'm going to butt up my edge down here, making sure I'm meeting at this wire line. And you see I've got the cut edge of this upper cut piece just kissing the seam allowance of my lower cut piece. And I'm going to tape that into place like so. So it looks kind of wonky, but it helps us to be able to get all the volume in the places that we need. So I'm just going to line these up again like so. And obviously you can tell that this is where the center of the bridge, the top of the bridge will meet. So this is where you want to continue that line of that curve. So you're going to copy over your curve all the way around the bottom cut piece and then up into the top cut piece over here. And when we're figuring out our swoop, we want to do just like we did before. We figure out the point of divergence. So on mine, I diverge right there. So I'm going to make myself a little tick mark so that I can keep track of it. And I also want to keep track of where I'm diverging over here. So this is the point where my two seam allowances start moving away from each other. So now we want to just sketch in a scoop that connects up here to the diverge point, to this diverge point, and ends at the neckline edge over there. So in this one, I didn't like how this curve would look to come up here and then have to come back in. So I set my curve a little bit lower on here. It doesn't matter where it crosses over, as long as it's crossing over in a section where those two seam allowances meet exactly. So this is as far up as I can go, but I can certainly go any level down here that I wanted to do. And so I just thought that that gave me a little nicer of an aesthetic, of a nice sweeping curve that goes like this. So once I have my curve figured out, I can go ahead and add my seam allowances. Just like the last time, I'm going to add a 1/4 inch seam allowance because I'm planning to sew fabrics to fabrics. Again, we're going to have a little bit extra that's just sort of hanging off the edge. This is going to be cut away later. It doesn't really matter what it looks like because this is where it finishes attaching to the bra. So here we have our swooping pattern piece. If you want it extending all the way to the bridge, or if you just want it extending to the cross cup seam. So if you come back later this month, I will have a project log that explains some of the construction methods for utilizing this swooping pattern piece here. I hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see everyone next time. Take care.